I fear that the global economy is going to remain fragile. There was supposed to be a strengthening of economic growth, but we're now witnessing a slowdown of growth at a time where inflation is rising. And I worry that actually the rise in inflation is going to be not temporary, but also persistent over time. And the slowdown of growth is going to also be persistent. The reasons are two. On the demand side, I think there were very loose monetary policy and unconventional, very loose fiscal policies, also unconventional. And we're moving to a world of debt monetization on a permanent basis, as you have large stocks of private and public debt, and central banks are in a debt trap and they cannot exit so easily unconventional policies. On the supply side, I think that the bottlenecks to supply on the goods market and labor market are not just transitory but more persistent. I fear that like in the 70s we could have permanent negative supply shocks. I identify several of them: deglobalization and protectionism, balkanization of global supply chains, aging of population, advanced economies and emerging markets, restriction to migration from poor to rich countries, decoupling between US and China on technology, trade, data, information, investment. We have also global climate change is damaging production, agriculture, and increasing both energy prices and food prices. I think that global pandemics will be permanent and endemic and cause self-reliance and export controls. We also have cyber warfare that damages production, or if you want to protect yourself, you have to spend a lot of money, and that's going to be expensive. And finally, you have a backlash against income and wealth inequality with fiscal policy now, pro-labor, pro-union, pro-workers. Might be the right thing to do, but raising the labor share in GDP is going to imply a wage price spiral. So in the 70s, that led to two oil shocks that led to stagflation, slow growth, recession, rising inflation. Here I identify potentially 9 supply shocks that could reduce growth and increase cost of production, lead to a wage price spirals. And if monetary and fiscal policy remain loose, that can lead to a de-anchoring of inflation expectation and lead to high inflation and stagflation at the same time. Finally, in the 70s, we had the stagflation problem, but debt ratio were low. After the global financial crisis, we had the debt problem, too much private and public debt, but it was a demand shock, and you had low inflation, if not deflation. The worst could be in the future, where we could have the worst of the 70s with stagflation and the worst of the post-GFC situation where you had the high debt ratio. That's why I worry about the stagflationary debt crisis. Those are the kind of things that over the medium term you have to worry about.